Okay, so welcome to episode 3 of ZachUX, and this will be my first design sprint episode. And the reason why I'm deciding to talk about design sprints in episode 3 is that I actually just got done doing one last week up in San Francisco. I'm usually in the LA area, but I flew up with my teammates toy to run a design sprint up there in the Bay, and it was with a really great client, pretty well-known company. Won't be able to talk about it too much right now, but I will say that the stakeholders that we got to work with were very fun and easy to work with. We got a lot done, we got a lot of insights. So the workshop that we did as part of the design sprint was great. We followed it up with prototype and testing, and it was just overall it's been a great experience, and looking forward to kind of what comes out of the sprint and how that kind of feeds into the overall project that we're doing. So I felt because of what I experienced last week, it's a great time to talk about design sprints. So I'm going to break it down in a couple ways, and the first thing I'm going to break it down is what is a design sprint, right? So it's going to be mostly about what, a little bit about why, and kind of how I've used it to kind of grow my career as a kind of a UX product strategist / designer. So what is a design sprint? So a design sprint is a 4-day process to design and test and prototype concepts and ideas for us specifically related to digital experiences and digital products. But it could be done for marketing materials, it could be done for physical spaces, service design, etc. But the main idea is that you're designing, testing, and prototyping big ideas quickly. In our case, 4 days. The whole concept comes from a book by Jake Knapp called Sprint, and originally the sprint was 5 days. We run the design sprint 2.0 process, kind of cultivated with Jake Knapp and AJ and Smart, and we learned from both of them to kind of run the design sprint in a 4-day process. So I don't want to get too deep into how each day goes, because there is a lot of documentation and video content out there about how each day goes, but I'll give a brief overview on how it can be broken down day by day. So the first day, which is typically Monday, but the sprint could start on any day, but the first day is dedicated to working as a team to come up with solutions and ideas for big challenges, big problems, and even big ideas that you want to work on as part of the design sprint specifically. So I also, at this point, want to give a tip, that kind of is related to that first day and that first idea. It's important for the design sprint to be pretty focused on maybe a specific portion of a product or a website or an experience. I think it's really important that the design sprint isn't too big or too small. So, for example, I think it would be harder to execute a design sprint if you're trying to maybe build the entire app or product in that design sprint, or the website, or whatever experience you might be working on. And then it's equally just as challenging if you are focusing on just maybe changing a button style or changing some typography, changing something that could be solved fairly simply and quickly without a ton of ideation. So you want to find that sweet spot. So for example, what we like to do in our design sprints is maybe instead of focusing on an entire experience or digital product, we might focus on just the onboarding as part of the design sprint, or maybe the checkout process if we're working with the e-commerce experience. My point is that we want to find the most important part of a product or experience and use the design sprint for that, and then for the rest of our engagement kind of build around what we discovered in the design sprint. So I'm already kind of getting ahead of myself, but I want to talk about that tip right then and there, kind of, because it is kind of based on Monday. Find those sweet spot challenges and questions to answer. So once you do that, then you're working on creating, this is still part of day one, creating sketches and solutions for those challenges and problems. So that's day one. Day two, you're voting on those sketches and the solutions and those ideas that the team came up with, and you're basically storyboarding around those sketches, those ideas. So by the end of day two, you have some sketches you could work off of, and a storyboard to work off of. So when you're building the prototype, you have a lot of material to work with as a design team. So on that note, day three, you're working on your prototype at that point. Your design team is coming together to build that experience or that product using the sketches and storyboard you created in day two to create a pretty realistic, clickable prototype. Nothing has to be engineered or developed. We use Sketch and Envision to create our prototypes, and again, nothing has been coded yet. We just get a kind of clickable prototype through Envision that can be tested. So on that note, the last and final day is dedicated to testing. We like to use software for our testing practices, and what I mean by that, we like to use a software tool called Maze to run our testing. We definitely do believe in the value of face-to-face testing as well, and in a lot of situations we do that, but we like using Maze because it just kind of fits our needs as an agency, and it works for our clients as well. So Maze does not sponsor us, does not sponsor my 3-episode long YouTube channel, so I'm not getting any kickback promotion for promoting Maze or Envision. These are just the tools that we use. So day 4 we use Maze. It's a user testing platform, and we get that feedback from real users to see what's working and what's not working with the prototype we built. So that leads me to the second tips based on my experience. It's okay for the prototype to get some quote unquote negative feedback or criticism. It's okay for the prototype to fail, because really the design sprint is a great learning tool. So either way, hopefully, you've designed a great prototype based off a great idea and users agree with that, and there's been plenty of times where we see that, and that's great. But it's also okay if you get some criticism or feedback that maybe is not so great or wasn't what you were expecting from the users. That's okay, because now you're able to maybe go back and iterate on that prototype and that solution, and build something that is going to kind of maybe respond and resonate with users. Well, when you do another sprint or kind of go through another design and development cycle. So either way, the key thing is that you are getting feedback, you are learning from users, or you're learning from stakeholders. So don't feel bad if you don't get perfect user feedback. You're getting that valuable knowledge either way. So that's another tip, and that's basically the 4-day design sprint process. Maybe in future episodes, I'll get into specific exercises and the benefits and value, and maybe some things some tips on how to do it well. But again, there's a lot of content and documentation on the design sprint. I highly recommend you check it out. Start off with Jake Knapp's book. It's called Sprint, and again, go from there. So the next thing I would like to cover is why even run a sprint. I think there's a lot of reasons, and there's a lot of reasons why we have committed to running sprints at Toy. But I think a couple of big reasons, or maybe more than two, is it comes down to us for what we do is we like collaborating with stakeholders in general. Before we started running the design sprint, we used to do a lot of design thinking, facilitation workshops, and because we just believe in the general idea of collaborating with our stakeholders and our client partners early and often, and the design sprint provides a great playbook to kind of create that atmosphere of collaboration and cooperation between, again, the clients and us at Toy. So it's been a great experience doing these kind of sprints and workshops in general. So that's one thing to think about. So on that note, another great reason to run the design sprint is it's a great way to maybe break down silos and to get teams to work together. So not just clients and creatives, or clients and agencies, but also internal teams within especially large organizations. So oftentimes I've come across companies that have great design teams, marketing teams, sales teams, business leadership teams, engineering teams, and they're all doing great work, but they maybe are not doing this together. Right, so the whole idea here with the design sprint is that you're able to get maybe 1 or 2 people from each department to come together to form a sprint team, and they're coming up with ideas and solutions together. And because that is happening, you're able to kind of get early sign-off between all of the departments, and all of the departments are working together, so the ideas are super cross-pollinated and are representing the organization as a whole. So it's just a great way, again, to collaborate, but even at a business level, at a company level, not just agency client level. Another great reason to run a design sprint, it's a great intro to design thinking methodologies and frameworks in itself. I know there's a lot of people out there that have heard of design thinking, know about the basic overall methodology and framework, and sometimes, especially when I was first starting, as a facilitator, I was like, okay, I get this design thinking thing, but what does it mean? How do I put it to use, in projects, in my process? And the design sprint provides this recipe book to kind of take the high level method or a concept of design thinking and making it very a step-by-step executable process. So it's kind of a great intro to design thinking. So I often like to say, trust the process, my homage to the Sixers and Joel Embiid, and it's really true with the design sprint. So if you haven't run a lot of workshops before, it's a great way to get started because it gives a great playbook to get in there and make some things happen. And it's hard for anything to go wrong because, again, even if the prototype isn't perfect, you're learning from it, and the next iteration, version 1 or a final MVP is going to be better because you ran the design sprint. So that's a little bit of what is a design sprint. That's a little bit of why it's good to run a design sprint. So that's how I kind of want to wrap up the first episode that's kind of dedicated to design sprints, and it's only the 3rd episode overall. Like I said, the more sprints we do, the more I'll probably talk about it in detail. And a couple things I do want to mention related to the sprint is that at Toy we have meetups dedicated to kind of creating a design sprint community. Again, we are in San Francisco and LA, and we have 2 meetup groups in those areas. So we just had a Design Sprints 101 meetup in San Francisco last month. It was really fun, and it covered a lot of some of the things, or most of the things I talked about in this video, but we kind of even went further in the actual meetup talk. And we're going to do one here in LA, March 12th. At General Assembly in Santa Monica. And I just want to shout out General Assembly really quick. They've been a great partner in allowing us a space in the community to work with to kind of foster the culture of design sprints, because obviously we really believe in what they can do. So that's coming up in March 12th. We'd love to see you there if you're in the LA area. And that's all I got for now. I really appreciate the viewership and the support. Again, after every episode I've released, it's only been 2 so far. I've gotten feedback, I've gotten support, and I'm able to learn from you just by creating this content and making this channel. So I'm really excited to get this episode out there. And I'm not sure what's going to happen with episode 4. I'll probably talk a little bit about what's going on with current projects, including the sprint I just executed with my team in Toy last week. But either way, it'll be fun. It'll be related to what we've been talking about so far, which is UX, product, maybe some more business of design. There's some great things to talk about there, of course. But either way, stay tuned for episode 4, and please like, subscribe, share. I'll throw all the information out like I've been doing for my social media, for the company, and for myself individually. And thank you for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode.